Welcome to Small Arms Solutions. Today we're looking at the Colt Python 2020. We want to call out to our friend John for allowing us to review his. I've been trying to get a hold of one of these since they came out well over a year ago. So we are very grateful to John for allowing us to take a look at his revolver. Well, before we really get into the Python 2020, we need to talk about the original. The original Python pistol was introduced in 1955, and many will say, including me, this is absolute artwork and metalwork. This is undoubtedly the finest made revolver ever. It is probably one of the most known ones for its view, for its look, very distinct look to it. This revolver was originally all handmade. We're going to be talking a little bit about some of that, coming up. But every part in here was handmade. If you had to have a screw, for instance, you had to send the gun back into Colt and have them custom make that screw. There was no part on here that was dropping, which was indicative of the times where you didn't have the CNC machines like we do now. So things had to be hand fitted. You had many skilled craftsmen at Colt who made these by hand, which is one of the things that really made these things special. This was not a mass-produced gun because the way this was made, you couldn't make them mass-produced. They were made very meticulously, and when they went out the factory, they were just absolutely pristine. So let's take a look at some of the incredible features on this revolver. So what we have here, this particular one is a 6-inch revolver. This one here is actually very special to me because this was my father's. He gave this to me before he passed just recently in 2020. This was the first revolver I ever shot when I was probably 6-7 years old. So I have a lot of memories with it. In fact, I'll share one of them. The one memory was, I remember as a kid, probably 8, 9, 10 years old, my dad had just got these caps, basically. They were plastic cartridge cases that you put a plastic bullet in and you just put a Magnum primer in it. And it was safe to shoot just into a bag of newspapers. And I remember, one time I saw him and my brother going down into the basement and shooting this in our basement with these little plastic bullets. So a lot of memories with this gun. So I-frame, 357 Magnum, also 38 Special. You have the long, extremely smooth double action pull. Then you would have your single action pull. And these were just absolutely gorgeous. Now the vent rib is a very it's a very iconic piece of this pistol. This was also used as a scope mount to place scope rings in as well. The barrel was also very special. The barrel was choked, which basically means is the barrel it would go down, it would get tighter, and that would give it a tighter gas seal, which thus would increase the accuracy. So that was a feature that was very impressive on this one as well. For as far as barrel lengths was concerned, 2.5, 3-inch, 4-inch, 6-inch, and 8-inch barrels were offered. And it was offered in many finishes. Again, we have here is nickel. And you also had royal blue, polished nickel, Colt Guard electrical nickel, stainless steel, satin stainless steel, and mirror stainless steel. So back, in those days, Colt offered a lot of different finishes. Now, the original guns were made of a carbon steel metal. And they also had a full lug underneath here. Now, the original guns had a full lug here, which basically was heavy. This was a relatively heavy revolver. And that kept that muzzle down. So later ones that would be more hollowed out. Now the rear sights were adjustable, so you had up and down, you had left and right in the rear, and the original one you just had a black front sight here. Of course, there was several other sights that you could get for it if you so chose. Now this one has the original grips that came with it, which were a maple grip. Now these were also offered with a Packmeyer grip, which I can't say I cared for too much. I've seen them with Hogue grips. There's a lot of aftermarket grips that were offered for it. But this one here was always my favorite just due to the fact that it was large, so I had a larger hand. Now, another thing this was known for was tremendous lockup. When it would cock back, just the severe tightness of this. There was very little creep in it at all. And also you could see very little cylinder gap. Cylinder gap is the distance between the muzzle and the barrel. One of the reasons you don't hold a revolver like this is because you have hot gases that come out the side. But because these were handmade, these are extremely close. You got very little blowback compared to most that were out there. Another interesting thing about this gun was, as far as history was concerned, it was the first one to use a laser to sight into pistols. You had a laser bore sight, and they would adjust the sights to it. This one here, I can't remember my dad ever changing the sights on it. He had a scope on it. That's one of the things that he did is he drilled and tapped it. There was a scope on this one at one time because he used it as his primary deer hunting revolver. Now, it did have its detractors. It was known to have failures on the top here, the top strap here. Now, with heavy use, these things tended to go out of time, which means when you could pull back, it wouldn't lock up precisely. With extremely heavy use. And also, it was known after excessive amount of rounds to have the top strap would blow. That was known with really heavy ammunition. I can't say as I've ever seen one, but that was one of the things that the detractors said. And it was heavy. Again, it was a heavy revolver. This was all steel. And also, depending on your point of view, having that heavy lug on there helped keep that muzzle down when you're firing those heavy .37 Magnum loads. Around 2005, this went out of production. When General Keyes took over Colt, was around the time of the global war on terror after 2000. There was a M4 became the primary service weapon for the U.S. military, and he basically discontinued the entire revolver line with the exception of their cowboy guns, their 45 long Colts, and those. And of course, they kept the 1911s. But he got rid of all of the revolver line, and he used a lot of that space to take up to increase M4 production, which in many people, in my opinion, was a very big mistake. That was the first thing that really took Colt out of the commercial market and geared them up totally for military. And of course, by the time they lost the military contracts, they had to bring the guns back. They were getting requests to bring guns back. And for a short time after the official word that they were canceling them, they were some made in that Colt custom shop. But it was a real shame. When this went out of production, and these started bringing in very, very large prices. In fact, the guns were I think my dad paid for this one in 1973, probably around $250. You figure with inflation now that would be $500, but these guns are now going for over $2,000 to $3,000, and some even more, depending on their condition. Now, this has probably been throughout history the most requested gun to bring back ever. Colt received many calls on a daily basis for all those years, people wanting to bring back the Python. At the time when they were making the M4s, there was no way they were going to dedicate any floor space to anything other than making M4s. And it wasn't really until Colt lost the military contract, freed up a lot of floor space, for them to start bringing it back. Now, one of the things that I have to say is I had made several comments over the years. I never thought the Python was going to come back because they lost all that the handcrafting techniques. The people who made these guns were all long gone. Colt doesn't do any of that custom stuff anymore. But I have to say, after seeing the new gun and thinking about it quite differently, my mind's changed quite a bit on that. Because between the end of production of the Python and the new production of the new Colt 2020 Python, you have two major different eras in manufacturing. Back in the day when they were making the original Pythons, they didn't have the CNC machines, which would hold to 0.002 of an inch in accuracy. In essence, what the new manufacturing techniques have done is eliminated the need to do the hand fitting, because all those components that are within that revolver can be made to a tolerance such as you don't need to hand fit. In fact, we take a look at the new Python, there's only one part that's hand fit, and that's the hand, which locks it. That's the only part. Everything else is drop in, and you were able to hold those at such a tight tolerance that you really couldn't see much of a difference. So to make any claims that the new Pythons can't be as good as the old one because the old one was hand fit, that doesn't necessarily hold very much credibility due to the fact of a different era and machining techniques. So introduction of the new Colt 2020 Python. Now, the only really criticism I've come up with this one is the name, because they call it a Python. Well, when you bring back a gun, you expect it's going to be the exact same thing. So when you say Python, you expect it's going to be the exact same thing. Well, this one's not. This one has been, many things have been redesigned. In fact, the trigger mechanism is totally different. You've gone from basically a hammer block safety to a transfer bar safety in this one, and the whole internal mechanism has been redone. As we can see from the photos, they still maintain the leaf spring instead of a coil spring for the hammer, but we have a new introduction of the transfer bar safety into this. Now, there's been a lot of changes to this gun, and there's been a lot of improvements. So I would like to have seen, the Python Mark I or something along those lines, something to differentiate it from the original one, because it is different. So one of the first things Colt did was they simplified the trigger mechanism. Again, taking a simpler trigger mechanism with modern manufacturing techniques, they were able to duplicate the same quality trigger as the original gun, which it was known for. Now, I will say, comparing the two, the double action, you cannot tell the difference. Single action, slight better on the original one, but the only way I can say it is the original one, that's had quite a few rounds through it. This one here, I was told from the owner that he's never fired it, so I was the first one to fire it. I put 125 rounds of 37 Magnum and 50 rounds of 38 Special. So we had 100 rounds of Black Hills 158 grain jacketed soft point. I had some SIG 125 grain V Crown, and I had some Remington UMC 30 Special full metal jacket. So this gun is still brand new. It's not broken in, so I can't necessarily say that trigger's not going to break in on that single action to be identical to it. But looking at the two of them and the feel of the two of them, I can't tell the difference really at all with the trigger mechanism whatsoever. Now, the frame is manufactured from a new material. The original one was basically a carbon steel. This is 410 series stainless steel. It's more corrosion resistant. It's stronger. It's a better material. Right now, they're only offering it in this particular finish here. I'm really hoping to see them bring some of the other finishes back. I'd love to see the Colt Royal Blue. I mean, obviously, I love the nickel as well. They had some of their polished stainless steel, which is very nice. So we don't know. Hopefully, they'll come out with some of the different finishes for it. Another thing they had in the frame that was a little bit different was the cylinder lock. The cylinder lock on the new Colt Python 2020 is larger. You have a lot more here to grab a hold of than you do on the original one. So it makes it a little bit easier for you to open the cylinder on this one. Now, the barrel is made from a solid forging, and it's also, as we said, it has the original choke rifling. Again, solid underlug to help with recoil. Now, the barrels they're offering now are only the 4 and 6 inches, and who knows what we're going to see in the future. To my understanding, Colt's backed up on these for quite some time for as far as manufacturing. So as they get caught up, who knows what they make them out with. Bring some of the other barrels back. So again, the external finish is more of a glossy polished stainless steel rather than the original brushed stainless steel. Brushed stainless steel, I think, was a little bit nicer, just a little bit more polished. This finish is nice, but for a gun like this, with this kind of a lure, I think the polished finish probably would have been a little bit nicer. But this is a good durable finish. This is a gun that's designed to be shot. This one here, sits in a baby diaper that's been in for many, many years. Has not been fired for many, many years. I won't anymore because it was a family heirloom. But it was never a gun that we shot a lot. My dad did shoot it, but it wasn't a lot. This one here has been beefed up. Because of the issues they've had with the top strap, they've increased the strength of the top strap as well. In fact, there's about 30% more material on this gun than on the original gun. So the gun was made stronger, more durable, and more longer lasting than the original. The hammer and trigger here, manufactured from billet steel. Now, one of the things that was changed just to simplify manufacturing is the trigger spurs. Now, if you look at the trigger spur on the original one, you'll see there's more of a checkering type pattern on here. This is more of horizontal lines. So that was just really done for ease of manufacturing, I believe. I can't say for sure why Colt did what they did. All I can do is surmise what I would think from common sense and knowing how those people are over there. But I imagine this was for ease of manufacturing. Does it detract from it? No. Actually, this is probably a little bit easier to grab a hold of with it being the straight serrations rather than the original one. Now, also due to the manufacturing of the new technology with the CNC machines, the original cylinder gap spec was 3 to 8 thousandths. So that was the distance that you had that could be between the cylinder and the crown. Again, what that does is it allows more gas to escape, a little bit lower in velocity. With the modern CNC machines, they were able to keep that down to 3 thousandths. So you're looking at a major tolerance difference between the two. But again, because of the modern CNC machines and the precision, they were able to improve that as well. The grips on here, I don't care for them as well because I have big hands, but they're also very well made. They're just a little bit smaller. Very nice wood. I'm sure you're going to find more grips that are going to be available in the near future. But again, walnut, you do have the Colt medallion on them like you do the original. Overall, this is obviously we have our 6 cylinders, cylinder latch here. But I have to say again, with that double action trigger on there, it's just absolutely gorgeous. Just smooth as smooth could be. And this is what you would expect. Now, these guns do go for around $1,500 and up because of the demand. and it is expensive. It would have been nice to see Colt have a little bit lower of a price on those, but again, what you're getting an extremely precision rifle. Something else we want to take a look at here between the two of them is the blocks. You can see on the Colt 2020 in my left hand, you can see that there's the transfer bar safety versus the hammer block that's on the original. Now, both guns are safe, to say the least. However, the transfer bar is just that much more safe. It's definitely an improvement. What we're going to do now is we're going to take this to the range and we're going to see how it shoots. As I said, we fired, let me see, 120, 150, 60, 70, 175 rounds. I didn't want to put too many rounds for this gentleman's brand new revolver, but we got enough to get a good feel for how it shot. For as far as the two guns are concerned, I can't differentiate between the two of them for as far as one shooting better than the other. They just don't. I have to say that the triggers were comparable. The fit and finish of the two, well, short of one having the nickel finish, I don't see much of a difference in the fit and finish. However, I do have to say I do like the original roll stamps on the original Python versus more of the laser etching that you see on here. I don't know. It's something I have. It's not nothing to do with Colt. It's just roll stamps just look much better to me now. We have to understand this is not 1955. This is 2020, 2021, where we're using lasers to engrave rather than using roll stamps. It's cheaper. It's more efficient. It's much sharper. It looks nicer. But that's just it's just a personal thing on my part, what I like. I have to say, for as far as the new production, again, I would like to have seen a Mark 1 or something just to differentiate it, because they are different. If it would have came back out with the exact same trigger mechanism, everything was the same, I would have said, yeah, sure, certainly call it a Python. But there was a significant amount of changes to it. So, again, a Mark 1 or something like that would have just been nice just to differentiate. Now, I expect these will sell very, very well for Colt. Now, we can't ignore the elephant in the room. There was some issues early on. We saw Hickok's video where you would pull the trigger and the cylinder wouldn't rotate. And according to Colt, what they found was the cylinder plates on the side here were coming loose. And if these aren't held tight together, it will slip. So the cylinder won't rotate. Another issue that came out was right at the muzzle crown, there was some chattering, some machining marks that did not look very good. Now, for as far as the quality control of Colt, that was not a good thing. You're putting out one of the most expensive pistols, handguns ever. It's known for that quality, that reliability. For as far as the side plates coming loose, I could see that as being more of a learning curve, that they need to put some Loctite or something on there. But the blemish on the outside was that was unforgivable. Now, I've never heard of that causing any accuracy issues. It didn't affect the crown for accuracy, but it looked bad. And for a gun that has this quality, that is known for this precision, this machining, that's something that should never have left the factory. But Colt has been taking those back in, and they've been replacing the barrels on those to correct that. And for as far as the cylinder sides coming through, there's no information on how many guns that affected. Was it just a few or was it many? We don't know, and Colt's not going to tell us for any number of reasons. But it appears as though that's been taken care of. I have not heard anything recently about that. I can definitely say from what limited rounds I shot, no problems whatsoever. So the initial teething problems that it did have, Colt has taken care of. Now, you figure also they had the same kind of teething problems when they first brought their revolvers back with the Cobras. I remember one SHOT Show that they showed up, and then all the writers came out there, and they could not get the guns to set off any rounds because the hammer springs were too light. They weren't setting off any ammunition. They ended up having to leave and go home because the guns wouldn't work. So they did have some teething issues with their revolver line. The Python, as I said, it out the door. With the issue with the barrel and with the side plate, it shouldn't have happened, but it does. And what I always say about when these kinds of things do happen is it's not when they happen, it's how they're taken care of. And Colt did take care of it immediately. So my overall impression is kudos. Colt did a wonderful job on bringing the Python back. What we see here is different. And again, we're looking at two complete different eras in technology. From 1955 to 2021. 1955, it required hand fitting because we didn't have the machining capabilities to go 2,000ths of an inch in tolerance. We didn't have that capability, so the hand fitting was. And another issue with the hand fitting was it was difficult to repair because everything had to be hand fit to repair it. It wasn't any kind of part you could just drop in. Where now we go to modern CNC production, where we have parts that are all drop in with the exception of the hand. And we have the same degree of quality. So, and question, would I buy one of these? Well, no. Why? Because I have this. If I didn't have this, I would be very tempted to buy one of these. I'm not much of a revolver fan. I own very few revolvers. In fact, all but two of my revolvers were family heirlooms. The only two I ever bought was my Dirty Harry 629, and I have a Colt Single Action Army I got to commemorate my time at Colt, where I had a custom serial number, which was my initials and the date I went to work for Colt. Those are the only two revolvers I've ever bought. If I did not have my dad's Python, I more than likely would buy one of these because it is the true standard of revolvers. It is the true art of revolvers, the highest standard that's ever been put out. Again, the earlier ones did have some issues. And all the issues that this one had for as far as coming out of timing and for as far as the top straps and everything has all been fixed on the new one. Again, more material. They changed the trigger mechanism. They've taken care of those initial few downfalls that they have and turn it into a true pistol that's meant to be shot. This is not meant to, go home and go into a drawer and just stay there as a collector's item. This one was meant to be shot. And again, Colt did a really good job bringing this back. And for as far as trying to say which one's better, it's hard to say one's better than the other because you are looking at two different eras. But the era that this came in, this one here is a representation of a new era of machining techniques. So you're looking at 1950s technology versus 2020. And a lot of changes in manufacturing and precision manufacturing have happened since those days. Now, we did a video quite some time ago. It was a Father's Day tribute to my dad and this revolver, the Python. So we're going to put a link to that one so you can see it. There's some special stories that went with the purchase of this revolver as well. So I do hope you all enjoyed this video. If you do, please click like, please subscribe, and even better, share. Thank you.